I know we
Yeah, we had Chuck on here, and he was an up and coming, and then he suddenly disappeared. Hasn't ever worked again.
Right. That's why that's why he used the was. He was an up and coming.
Yeah.
But welcome back, guys. This is episode 149 of the Chillin' with Villains podcast, and we have a very special guest. Our first guest of the year, actually. First guest of 2022. Our guy, Chukwudi. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Chukwudi
Iwuji.
Yeah.
I know when I was watching the official Peacemaker podcast, you were like, oh, you pronounced my name correctly. Like, I appreciate that. And it's funny because my first name, right, Mizraim, I get it mispronounced a lot as well. So I can only imagine. Can you imagine how many different iterations of my name there has been? Or just
okay, so it's supposed to be Mizraim. It's supposed to be Mizraim, right?
Yeah.
So I imagine there's a Mizraim, Mizraimi, miserable.
Miserable. Yes. Yeah, one of my friends in high school, he always called me miserable. I swear to God. The Miz. Yeah. Les Miserables. What's that song?
Les Miserables.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I consistently got that. Yeah. And then sometimes I would get things where they would add like just unnecessary letters to it.
Or accents to it.
Or accents.
Are we talking about messing up names?
Yeah. Yes, we are talking about messing up names.
Hey, Mizraimi. Syllables, Mizraimi. So they probably go, hey, add Mizraimi. I mean, where's the ad from? Mine are incredible. I get, because my last name's Iwuji, but for some reason, I mean, look at me, I'm a black guy. People call me Luigi. I was like,
Luigi.
Oh no!
And now he's a plumber.
Can you just not see there isn't an L there? Because it was Luigi. I've had Chukwudi. Where's the N from?
Right. Like,
I mean, I've had so many, But the one I hate most, because I used to be called Chuck for short, right? Okay. Which is perfectly cool. But I used to hate it when people would assume my name was then Charles. I was like, there's nothing Charles about me. Nothing at all.
Nothing. You need like a monocle and a top hat.
and it's actually very interesting because sometimes you get people that go, like, you sure it's not? Like telling you, like,
am I sure?
It's my name.
I'm pretty sure.
No. Wow, it's not.
Right.
You go, no, it's not. Wow.
Sure?
And then they look at it. They continue to look at it like, usually this is in customs or something. They look at it like I'm wrong. Like, you better go look at your name again. I was like, no,
dude, run my password. Go ahead, do it.
So when you go to Starbucks, what are you doing? Are you just giving out Chuck? Is that what you're doing?
Don't go to Starbucks.
Oh.
No.
As soon as he's like, oh,
wait, no sponsors.
No free sponsorship. No free sponsorship for Starbucks.
No, I honestly, it was a really interesting story actually, because because I grew up in Nigeria, so it was always Chukwudi. Everyone knew how to say it. Then my parents joined the United Nations, and I went to our first place was Ethiopia, and I went to an American school there. So people started calling me naturally, as Americans do. They always you guys want to find the quickest version of everything. So it was Chuck.
What's going on, Chuck?
Chuck became my name. And then when I went to school in England, I just always introduced myself as Chuck. And then my mom, who passed away, sadly, from cancer in 2009, I remember, you start spending these wonderful moments when time is running out, even if you haven't accepted it yet, right? Yeah. And I remember we and her was sitting, and I think I'd just, I don't know where it was. We were having a conversation, and she just randomly said, we weren't even talking about names. She just randomly said, Chukwudi is a beautiful name. And that's all she said. And from that moment on, all new acquaintances and professionally, I said, it's going to go back to Chukwudi. It's not that I didn't like Chuck. Now, a lot of my old friends that I've known for years, they still call me Chuck. I'm not going to make them change the habit. Like, hey, no, I only go, But new acquaintances and certainly professionally, it's Chukwudi mainly for her. But I really don't mind Chuck either,
So from now on,
so that's the story.
The Chillin' with Villains will always refer to you as Chukwudi. almost.
Chukwudi. There you go.
Chukwudi.
Perfect.
Yeah, no,
Perfect.
I mean, it's your name, man, right? Like that's so important. It
Yeah.
gives you the identity that that's you, that's who you are. So it's
And it's
always
that
nice
sort
to
of
embrace it.
absolutely, and it's not just that way to say, it's a unspoken gratitude for those who gave you your name. Thanks, mom. Thanks, dad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thanks, wherever we're coming from. When you actually acknowledge your name that way.
exactly, man. So
Yeah.
also speaking of which, right? So since you are chilling with the villains, we would love to hear what villain name of any pop culture reference that you would like to carry on for the rest of this episode. Any villain to you, and Mern, I guess Mern doesn't really count.
Mern
No,
isn't a
Mern
villain.
isn't a villain. We've
No, he's
seen
not a
he's got a
villain.
big
Yeah.
he's got a big heart. He's got a big heart. It's bad because you see I'm caught in the middle because I'm in both the DC and the Marvel world, and I feel I'll be letting
What a
someone down by
flex.
choosing one or the other. But hey,
It could be
honestly,
anything too. It could be Harry
because
Potter.
it
It could be Lord of the
like,
Rings.
yeah.
It doesn't
Honestly,
also have
I've
to be.
always, as far as villains go, maybe it was something about Jack Nicholson. I've always loved the Joker.
Oh, nice.
So call me the Joker. Because also there's something wonderfully, my background in Shakespeare, there's something very Shakespearean about his psychosis. Do you know what I mean? That sort of drifting into that psychosis and this weird backstory that maybe he came from tragedy, and all that stuff. I've always been drawn to the Joker. Like if someone said play a villain from these worlds and stuff, like one of the ones that would definitely be up there would be Call Me the Joker,
Okay. No, that's incredible.
Hey,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
And I love that you brought that up, how your theater background sort of, because we do see the Joker in that light, but I feel like not everyone really appreciates like what has made that man the way that he is, right? So it's nice to see that you kind of take your experience of working in theater and you're just sort of like, like the Joker is like an interesting character study.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us
Yeah,
more.
character. I always feel with theater, a big difference between theater and film is I think if you're, say, walking into a film audition, the trick is that of TV is that when you walk in, you want the creators or the decision makers to believe when this character was being written, they were thinking of you, i.e. Chukwudi, oh, he's the guy. In theater, that's not something you worry about. If anything, you want to see, you walk into the room and the director's there and you want them to watch you become that character.
Wow.
Do you see a very subtle
Yeah.
difference that in
Yeah.
film and TV, you sort of walk in as the person in theater, you sort of give the impression of transforming into that character. So yeah, I think that's why when I look at something, say the Joker, I'm thinking in terms of characterizing him as opposed to just being the Joker. Does that make sense?
Yes,
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's all
Yeah.
about, though, because a lot of people tend to mention that Batman, he has other villains and stuff, but he's like the
The
pinnacle.
He's just so good, and of course it helps with
Yeah.
Heath Ledger. I mean, what he did with it, but but then what's his name?
Joaquin,
In the Joker
Joaquin
movie.
Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix did with it. I mean, I remember watching. I believe we're talking about completely different projects. Sorry, James. But I remember
Sorry,
watching-
James.
Sorry, James.
I love you, man. But I remember watching the trailer for the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. And I remember just watching the different sequences and watching him when he does that dance.
Yeah.
And they're sitting as an actor with whatever, and I teared up because in the trailer, it was clear to me that the director and the writers had gone to Joaquin and just said, create this guy.
Right.
Do what you want. There was a complete understanding of me watching someone having been given freedom to create something, and that's so rare in the industry.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
it's a wonderful thing to witness because you can tell the difference between when that leash is long and when the leash is very short. And
Right.
I only say that because in many ways what I'm doing with James, building the character we're building right now in Guardians, feels like he's giving me that free, like it's like, I've got this idea, but you're the actor. let's figure this thing out and let's see how far we can take it. You know,
that is
that's
such a
always,
beautiful
that's a
thing.
gift. That's very rare. It's a gift
Yeah.
when that happens, you know?
Yeah. You know, actually Todd Phillips with Joaquin, that scene that they did in the bathroom where he's just, after he kills those dudes on the train, like he just starts dancing in the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Improvise,
They
right?
they just had, I believe, the cinematographer in there just have him like, hey, just record him dancing. Like, just let's just see
He
where
wasn't
this goes.
supposed to dance. Right?
Yeah, he wasn't
just
supposed to
started doing
dance,
it.
and they had the composer actually just play. She just started playing in the background, and then he just went with it. So that's what we
went
got.
with it.
That is
I
beautiful.
think you gotta, that when that happens, but you have to know there's certain roles, I believe, like if I'm gonna talk about theater background, there's certain roles that you only decide to direct it as a director if you know the actor you're going to use. Does that make sense?
Yes,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, I'm attached to this project, let's go find the actor. There's certain projects where you go, I want to do this project with this actor. You know, I think of that, and so for me, I would say a classic one is Hamlet. You don't decide, oh, I'm going to direct Hamlet, let's go find the actor. You decide, oh, I'm going to direct Hamlet with that person because it needs that sort of leash, you know?
Yeah.
And it's always exciting to watch those sort of projects when you know that's the nature of the collaboration, you know?
That's what makes it feel so wholesome as well. Because when, honestly, when I started watching, I gravitated to probably the supporting cast more. Like I really love the group that James put together, and you know, especially your character.
Yeah,
you're a Mern.
Thank
That's it.
you.
Nobody else is Mern.
yeah.
I was
that means a lot.
I was so freaked out when we found out, and obviously, guys, spoilers if you haven't been watching.
Spoilers
Peacemaker.
ahead.
But I was so freaked out when we found out that you were a butterfly. I was like, oh shit!
I was like, yo, I like this guy. Like what?
I was like, no.
Well, you know, that makes me very happy because one of the things that I've been constantly asked is, when did you know you were going to be a butterfly? And I knew from the start. So I was very conscious about making sure that I didn't play the arc or drop hints. I don't want to be condescending to the audience. You know, I think it's important that you play exactly. So that's vindication of that. So that makes me very happy that it came as a surprise like that. Yeah.
And then even that. I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
Yeah, like and even in this last episode where Harcourt was saying, like, I noticed when he didn't take any damage from that explosion in the minute, I was like, wait.
Yeah, wait, he did it.
That was so obvious.
I was like, wait a minute. How did I miss that? I was like, damn. I was like, you know, it's because you're so. I think it's because you're so worried about what's going on in the basement that you're just like, because with Peacemaker and Vigilante getting tortured. You're like, oh, like what's going on with them, and then you don't pick up on those like little things there.
For me, it was just like it's a comic book movie. Like I didn't really think much of it. I was like, these things.
Yeah, people explode and they don't die.
I was like,
Mern's fine.
He's fine.
No, I didn't think he should have been dead, but I was like, no damage at all from that explosion.
You know, but now that we're thinking about it,
Yeah.
didn't she ask him like, hey, are you okay? And then he's like, I'm fine. Like,
I remember when we were shooting that scene because again, you know, okay, this explosion has happened. So how do I? That was a really interesting moment in because most of the time I'm just focused right up to after I'm revealed, but focused on just being Mern, this human being, again, not giving away anything. But at the time, I have been blown up, and I was ready to embrace that I was far enough from the explosion where it was more about, you know, the being blown backwards as opposed to being hit by shrapnel. I was ready to do that. But there was a very interesting moment where the camera came down to me when she says, "Are you all right?" And I go, these butterflies are they're strong. They're very strong and clearly not damaged. But a real guy now would be more stunned. But how do I balance the real person, Mern, who would be more probably screwed, with someone who's a butterfly still calculating and perfectly healthy? Do you know what I mean? So it was a very important moment of getting, because it was a close-up also on my face. And I remember I said that, you know, I'll just give the thumbs up, but I'll be very focused. Because I'll give the thumbs up like it's all good. So it embraces that whole comedy action thing and distracts from the fact that
I'm fine.
Fine.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Terminator.
That's a great point.
Terminator. That's because it is. It is the Terminator. Is that he's there? Yeah. Robert Patrick. Woo.
No, but that it's little things like that. You know, hearing it from your perspective is what really I think isn't exactly, because there's just so much that goes into just filmmaking in general, right? And even like the constant breakdown of like, what would this character do in this situation because of X, Y, and Z? Kind of the things you're describing, right? He's a butterfly pretending to be human. So it's like, but what is the reaction?
No one knows yet.
Right, but no one knows yet. So what is the reaction he would get? And he has to do this in like a split like second. Yeah. And the fact that you as an actor are thinking about that, right? And you're just like, huh, like, and people like James who have to write this stuff, it's just, I'm like, wow, like
it gives it more nuance.
And that's why to me nowadays when I'm watching things like yes, of course, we as humans, we love to critique things, right? But at the same time, like let's look at the good in everything that is filming, because it's not easy, like from any perspective at all, right? It's just not.
Absolutely. There's always something to be applauded. The effort of you know, you think of someone like James who happens to also write what he directs, you know, the effort of starting that creation and then seeing it through. I mean, his stuff is genius, so we don't even have to apologize for how brilliant he is. But in general, that effort should be really applauded. And you're right, I have been trying to do more of that, to be honest, you know, Ms. Ram, because I do, you know, sometimes your first instinct, oh God, what, this is crap. Oh, we've seen this before and all that stuff. And sometimes you have to like just understand, as someone who's, you know, written only one script in my life, and God knows, and I know how much that took out of me, you know, you have to appreciate the people that come back to the table and come back to the laptop and create all that stuff. Even if it's not to your taste, someone's going to like it. You know, you can't please all of the people all of the time, but you usually please some of the people some of the time. That's what you aim to do, right? You know, so
Exactly.
But also, when you were talking about one of the things that marks James out as a writer is that really good writers have the capability of directing the actors without writing director's notes. They direct them through description or dialogue. You get a sense of what you're supposed to be and do. Good writers do that. So James is already, because he too is an actor. He knows how to write and direct through the dialogue. You know, so if you're perceptive and you read it properly, you get a lot of clues as to what to do.
That's incredible, yeah.
That's why all the characters he writes are so
real.
Yeah, like you feel, like they feel like legit. Like this guy has made us have something to feel about a tree and a raccoon.
If something happens to Eagly, like I'm upset.
Yo, Eagly.
My brother this morning, I was zooming him and he says, dude, I love that t-shirt, but you know, honestly, I'd rather have Eagly on the front there. You know, Eagly.
Sorry, James.
like in the last episode when John Cena kept like picking him up and like he kept like, I'm like, stop touching him, stop hurting him.
Just let him fly. Just let him fly.
Yeah, but then he's like devouring cops. Like
I know, right? I was like,
I was like, damn.
So badass. Yeah, so badass.
Even Vigilante said something. He was like, yo, dude, like, your fucking ego's kind of like a G right now. Like,
kind of about us.
But
no, I don't know. In the comics, it's funny, I've never asked James this. Is Eagly James's creation for Peacemaker, or does Eagly exist in the comics? Do you know?
Let's look it up.
Let's see.
Look it up.
Is Eagly?
Oh, you got it? Should we vote? All right, you got it.
Peacemaker comics.
Funny, I never thought to ask James.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's also because like the characters that he chooses are always like
Peacemaker does not have
well known.
Yeah, well known.
Yeah, this was created.
That was completely this is this guy's mind. Who sits there and thinks his pet should be an eagle called Eagly?
I mean, James Gunn would definitely.
You know,
James Gunn is the only guy, and I said like he's. I think after like once I heard he was directing like Suicide Squad, I think I was like, I'm good.
It makes
like
sense.
I'm good with that. It makes sense.
It makes
like
sense. Yeah.
And then especially once I heard the cast, I was like, I haven't heard of a majority of these characters, so I know I'm probably gonna care for all of them pretty like a lot after this movie.
And he's very careful about the cast. He doesn't just cast people that are good actors or whatever, but he really does want a good atmosphere around the set. He's very particular about casting people that will get on well with each other. And I think that's something that's kind of also very rare, but so important because it always pays off. It really does pay off. You as the audience, you don't know why you're enjoying the ensemble more. Sometimes you don't know why, but I think sometimes it is that these are people that genuinely, get on and enjoy coming to work with each other every day.
The chemistry is very notable.
Right.
There's something about the chemistry that's always there. It's just like,
and that makes it way more likable and enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
And that's why I love that you guys are like the cast and crew are constantly posting on socials, like behind the scenes and just like bloopers, comedic moments, because it does give the show a little bit of more. Okay, great. Like they did this, I'm enjoying it, and I'm glad they enjoyed the process of actually creating it for us. So I think that's a very important part as well.
And honestly, to have had that much fun during what was very peak times of COVID, certainly in Vancouver where we were. I mean, there was a lot that should have sent us spiraling in the other direction, but it was a very happy set. And that's one of the main, I think, accomplishments. And that comes from top down, how, the producers, Peter and James and stuff, because there was a good atmosphere. You came into work and it wasn't just us laughing, there's great blooper reels that, you're getting little glimpses of, but the crew are laughing. And you guys know, those guys and crew, they've been there, done it. They're hard, and they don't
laugh easily. Yeah,
they're not easily impressed, And I love that about them because they've done like 200 shows over 30 years or whatever. But these guys were genuinely getting into it, and that for me was a big litmus test. How into it they were getting. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Is there something I noticed about James, because I have like at least 3 people in my mind that if there's a project involved, I know there's gonna be good music. That's James Gunn, Edgar Wright, and Quentin Tarantino. I know I'm gonna hear some tunes on there. So, were there any moments on set where James will be playing music, like in between takes or when you're getting ready that
Not in between. James sometimes plays music during takes. To make you really feel, so you know what it's gonna be like when it's ready. So, for instance, the scene in episode 3 where we burst into the house and we're, like scanning, and I can't remember the name of the band that were playing. That music, we arrived on set, and when I didn't know it was going to happen because it was my first project with James. And then when he said action, on the loudspeakers, this music just blasted, and you're walking in there with a Glock, and you're looking freaking cool, and it's going to be in slow motion, that music is playing. Oh man, I felt, talk about kids' dreams, growing up watching all those cool action movies and the music is actually playing. And then he says to you, by the way, this is going to be super slow motion. And I just felt like I had arrived, £1,000,000, so badass. But he does that to get the music going. Even on Guardians, he does that a lot for the act. If the music he feels it's going to lift the performance, he just like completely plays it with the music.
I love his choices. I love how intricately he chooses the music for every scene, and even if there's dialogue or if there's not, and we're just like following along with the characters and all that, I just think it's so beautiful because whatever he chooses is not just like, oh, I'm pressing shuffle. Like he's playing hooked on a feeling for a reason. He's
for a specific reason.
Yeah, exactly. So
this
awesome.
is
and music has that ability. There's something about, I don't know about you guys, but if I sit in an opera, go to an opera, I'm a mess. I'm a bundle of. There's something about music that's it strikes an unspoken chord. Like for instance, if I go listen to an opera, I don't like listening to it in English because I don't actually hear what they're saying. I just want to hear the sound that's coming from the music. And I think James is keyed into that big time in his choices of music, is that it just does something. The chords or the progressions in the music does some, or the voice he'll choose from that song with what's going on. And he does it every time. I mean, I remember watching, you were mentioning the Suicide Squad, and the scene with Ratcatcher 2 and her dad on the clock tower. You're in the middle of this mayhem. And they give you that scene, and I'm sitting, because I saw it at the premiere in London, I'm sitting in this IMAX, and we've been laughing and roaring with laughter. And then suddenly this guy drops this on you, and I'm like a little baby crying because I'm like, this is embarrassing. But he has that ability to do that, to get you, because he leads with the heart, ultimately. And that's what you were talking about, how it's real. It seems real with the characters and stuff. I think it's because for all the madness, that's just the medium he's chosen, this sci-fi, whatever. He's truly a storyteller and a humanist in that sense. So, and that's what comes through with this project,
Chukwudi, next time on set, you need to be like, hey, you know what will really get me going, James? Just start blasting some nice opera music and watch you get the best performance out of me you will ever get.
Just, put on Beethoven, bro, and watch me
right now. Just do it.
Oh wow, yeah.
But I need to. Speaking of the I've actually been like dying to go to one. Like, that scene in Mission Impossible? I forgot which one it was.
In Rogue Nation.
Yeah.
In Rogue Nation.
Oh my God. I'm like, not only did it just make the scene that much tense, it just sounded like beautiful, like just so like wow.
Yeah.
And also the way they put together that scene, literally the action was following along with the notes being played.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's incredible.
They did a similar thing that was really good in Quantum of Solace also.
Yes.
In this, whatever
okay,
they did.
James
It's just
Bond
such
fan.
a great nerd, James Bond nerd. I grew up. The first 3 films I remember seeing as a kid, as far as we had the old VHS. That's how old I am. But I remember we were in Lagos and we just got this new VHS, and I was probably about 5 or something like that. This memory, and I remember the first 3 movies we had were The Godfather, Day of the Jackal, and Moonraker. I mean, those were the first VHS things that we had. So that was the beginning of James Bond for me. And then it was weird because I think I saw Roger Moore's Moonraker. Then the next Bond film I saw was Connery, and I was like, as a kid, you're like, what the hell? That's not Bond. That's not the same.
Yeah, that's Sean Connery.
I did a spit take into my, Ribena drink or whatever the hell I was drinking. I was like, but who is this guy? So, but since then, I've been such a James Bond geek. Yeah, 008. 008. Bond geek, yeah.
Like they must have upgraded
opera music is just so, because it's just the most heightened of music. It's like when you can't express yourself with words anymore, you break into this other sound, and when done right with that, because it's such a weird thing. Normally with action movies and guns going off, you want to hear some serious, like hardcore rock or something, or you want that. But when you decide, no, instead I'm going to put some of the most beautiful music ever captured ever from Birdie or something, and I have a dream of doing a scene before I die. I would love a scene.
Do it, James. Listen.
I would love
we're
one
gonna record
scene.
this and add James Gunn.
I would love one scene that's in something like an opera or something. Mm-hmm. And I just want one time in my life as an actor, a bit like Nicolas Cage in Face Off, to reach behind me and pull out a couple of guns as opera is playing. And just go nuts. One time.
Let's do it.
One time in my career.
Let's do it. When you come back to New York, when you come back to New York, let's rent out like a nice little opera thing. We'll get a couple extras. Where's the money? Where's the money coming from? I don't know. We'll start a GoFundMe.
We'll figure it out.
And the good thing about opera, you don't have to pay to use the opera. Just blast it. They're all dead.
Exactly. There's no royalties. There's no royalties. Yo, Beethoven, you play that.
Okay, yeah. And the second we do it, watch one of their great. They're like, hey, excuse me.
Hey,
you cannot use my great grandfathers.
Bro, that's at this point it's ancestors.
Ancestry.com exists, dude.
Yo,
like
confirm.
they could find out. Let them find out, and then we get screwed with all this. Watch. That's what's gonna end up happening. But no, that's actually incredible. And something funny, because I know you had mentioned also, right, that, you're into like the classical music and things of that nature. And it just reminded me of when I used to take Latin back in high school.
Oh, God, yeah.
Hard as shit. Hard as shit. And then B.
Amor, massa, mat. You remember all that stuff?
Vamos, bates.
Oh my God, bates.
Exactly.
You know what? Oh God.
But shout out to my high school teacher because he was incredible. He was super patient, very, very, very intelligent dude. It really was.
Mm-hmm.
But during exams, you know what he would, and he would also tell us, he was like, when you're studying, please, I implore all of you, listen to classical music. And I was like, one day I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll do it. And I just started doing it. And even on the exams, you kind of feel your brain, it's more in like a calm state of mind.
Yeah.
And there's a lot less pressure. So you sort of feel like you are gaining something from it. So I
compartment.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, keep going. Finish, mate.
No. Go right ahead.
I like to compartmentalize my music. Like definitely for like when I'm learning lines or going on walks or reading, it's classical music. It has to be that, you know. And then you decide, you know, I have music that I use to work out. I have music when I feel like I need to be, you know, when I'm cooking or stuff. But classical music is definitely my concentration focus.
Kind of,
you know, sort of go to. And that teacher was absolutely right. I studied. I remember a lot of finals in college and stuff. I would have classical. I'd just close my door and have classical music playing as I worked and stuff. You know, yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. And, you know, especially living in New York now, when you're walking the busy and loud streets, that's something, you know, you just put the AirPods on noise cancellation.
Yeah. Oh, like, that's the best thing ever.
It's also very dangerous, but
it is dangerous. I'm like, you don't hear shit. I don't hear shit. Like, I'm like,
I use it in the subway, you know, just mainly because in the subway, I'm just always assuming in New York there's going to be some kind of drama. And I just, the best way of not engaging is
music
on, and you're looking down.
Music and looking down.
Anything. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you still always get people that like will find a way to make you look up, and I'm just like, oh, like, can I just pretend that like
you got to be careful though in the subway, man. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a period where they're crazy. There was a period where I don't know what energy I was giving off, but it was happening almost like once or twice a week, someone would try to engage me. Do you know what I mean? A couple of times, literally, would want to have a fight on the subway. Bruh. You know, and I'd be there with my book, and the book would piss them off. Like, I remember one time I was literally reading. And this guy comes up to me. He came in crazy. He had no shirt, basketball shorts on. The guy was on something, and he wanted a fight. You know, he was going around to people, just getting in their faces, getting crazy. I just said, I'm just going to read my book. But I know he's going to come to me. I'm standing in the corner. He's shouting. Then it goes quiet. And then suddenly a hand pulls my book down. And it's him. I was like, here we go. And he just goes, what are you reading? I said, this is what I'm reading, you know. And he goes, and then it starts escalating. And he's like, man, I'm going to be like, I can't read. I was like, I'm going to be cool. And then he suddenly went, wanted to throw down. And you know, with that moment, normally you wanna de-escalate, right? You wanna like, I don't need to be dealing with police statements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you know, there are times when I think it was like the third time in like 3 weeks this had happened, and I just lost it. I was done. And I was just like, I saw red. I was like, let's do it now. You know what I mean? And I lost it. And then the guy goes from being all this to shirtless, whatever, and he goes, you know, man, you lucky. There's kids here. I was like, oh, there's kids here now. I looked at him, I was like, oh, there's kids here now. It made you feel like an asshole. I actually said, you notice the kids? You notice them now? I mean, it was, and then then the subway stopped, and he just says, he jumms out and says, come out here. I was like, come in here. And he goes out, and we.
Next time.
When New York can do that to you, you're a calm person. But that city, I love that city. It's home. There's no city like it. It's the energy, you know, all that. We know that. But man, can it piss you off?
Yeah. Next time,
it piss you off?
Next time, this has got to be your take, right? It has to now, right? Yeah. Next time that happens, you'll be like, you know who the fuck you're talking to? I'm Clemson fucking Mern.
Exactly.
I'm Clemson fucking Mern.
Yeah.
What? I'll get Amanda Waller here. You know who the fuck that is? Nah, you don't. Stupid. Watch the reaction.
Just break into your character.
Yo, imagine going on the subway and picking a fight with Mern, dude.
Right. Like, I'm a butterfly. Are you a butterfly? No.
Butterfly, motherfucker.
I'm a butterfly, motherfucker. Exactly.
Yeah. I'll just give them the Clemson Myrna stare.
The stare, like right? Just
man, you have that. You have that stare down packed.
Yeah,
like that's something I mentioned when we first started watching the show. I'm like, man, these guys are just pissing Myrn off. Like he's so stressed out. like shut the fuck up.
Like, cause they be talking about absolute nonsense, and he's like, we kind of have a crisis here. Like, what are we really talking about? Like
I'm trying to save your world. Shut the fuck up and listen.
Is it like distracting sometimes? Like, cause I know you have to stay in character, and what they're doing is so hilarious that you're just like, man.
And it's probably improv, right? A lot of like John Cena.
A lot of it is written, but then what James likes to do, he likes to let the camera keep rolling, and then he will throw out suggestions from the back. So he's on this god mic, and he goes, "Say this." So it would keep going, and I'm trying to, and it's all right for them. They can be the Apple Dumpling Gang, right? And I'm sort of there trying to keep a straight face.
They're like, cut.
Oh God, I lost this. Like I said, there's more and more blooper reels, and there were days I was worried, are we gonna ever get this shot? Because we were all just cracking up, or you keep it together. Remember that moment in one of my favorite, the one that was really hard. I was worried if we're ever gonna. It was the one where he's reeling off the names. John is reeling off all those names.
Oh my
and he really did. He just kept going and kept going. It's not like he would stop and have to think about them. He kept going and going, and James just kept rolling and rolling. So if you notice, when they did the sort of post-credit scene and he's still reeling off names, you notice the camera, I'm behind him, and the camera just stays on my lower back, not because my upper half is dying laughing because it's still rolling, and I'm trying not to make any sound as I'm laughing, and I'm standing there because I know I'm not really in shot, trying not to laugh. But the one that really got me is that when he goes, I think it was episode 5. I can't remember the episode where he goes, it was the recent episode 6, where he goes, and you know, that's like 50%. And you know what you get with 50%? A D. Remember?
Yeah. Everybody was like an F, and he's like a D.
School wasn't for me.
We lost it. I mean, we lost it. Freddie Stromer, poor Freddie, was dying in that, and I was like, we're never gonna get this shot. We're never gonna get this shot.
That's so funny because you know, that's one of those moments where, you know, I love comedic moments like that because it catches you off guard, because everybody, you know, unanimously is like, yeah, that's a terrible grade. Like,
that's an F. You failed.
And he's just like, no, it's a D. Like, I didn't fail.
He's so sure about it. He's like, yeah, it's a D.
Yeah. Well, imagine me looking at John when he does, because John's just supposed to say a D, and I'm supposed to say F. But John, being John, went yeah. You know?
Yeah, because he knew what you were saying was right.
For me.
Yeah.
Imagine how hard it was for me keeping a straight face. Oh God, it was so much hilarity. It was crazy.
That's incredible. And something I want to bring up now, right? Because in listening to that the Peacemaker podcast that you were on and that you were talking about, you had said something about imposter syndrome, right? And I kind of want to discuss that because, you know, hearing it from you and you saying that sometimes it doesn't feel real and it's just like, oh, do I like belong, you know, with the people that are here? I would love to just hear more of that, because I feel like from what we've gotten, right, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you feel like right now, like this is where you're starting to really like hit things off with your career?
Certainly in film and TV, theater was, you know, people are going to be at this point looking back at maybe the last 2 or 3 years, right, as to my trajectory, you know, with Guardians coming out, Peacemaker, Underground Railroad before that, you know, The Girl Who Got Away, you know, they're going to be looking at all this and go, oh yeah, but really it's been 23 years, not just 3,
right.
You know, and a majority of that initial 18 or so years was theater. So I had my imposter syndrome, like when I first joined the Royal Shakespeare Company or first joined the National, when I'm working opposite some people for whom they're the reason I became an actor in the first place, and I'm suddenly sharing a stage with, and some gala with Judi Dench or whatever, or Ian McKellen is in a, or Ian
That's
McKellen,
Gandalf.
Or Gandalf is. I did a show with Judi Dench, and Ian McKellen is in a photo shoot with me because we're in the same season. Or I'm or I'm working with Sam Mendes directing me, Richard III. You're just there. So you have that. But I did that. I was very lucky. I did that. I did a lot of theater. Then I came to New York, and the public theater, really took me in. And, within my first year here, I was working with, Annette Bening and John Lithgow. And, I did Othello with Corey Stoll, and I owe that. So I somewhere in those first few years of theater, I got over the imposter syndrome because I was doing it. For film and TV, for the most part now, it's so new to me still, relatively speaking. It's crazy. People are calling me up and coming. I'm in my 40s. Do you know what I mean? It's still relevant.
Never too late. Never too late.
It's so new to me that, yes, I mean, there are times when I go, you turn up to this set, when we did Peacemaker, and you turn up and there's hundreds of people and it's James Gunn, the guy I went to see Guardians in Times Square with a friend, not thinking I would just always be a fan. And suddenly this guy, not only is hiring me, but he's such a huge champion of mine. And yeah, there is the imposter syndrome, or like when there's that moment when the set goes hush and there's like hundreds of people watching you about to do your thing. Or like I'm sitting here every time I go on set on Guardians, I'm thinking whatever it is, in about a little over a year's time, this is going to be on an IMAX, And I can't help but feel an imposter syndrome because it's still relatively new. And I think that the flip side of imposter syndrome is an awareness of how lucky you are. And guys, I'd love to say that it's about talent or hard work. All those things are important. I know that my motto was, if someone's working this hard, I'm going to work this times whatever harder.
Right. I work harder, yeah.
That was always how I felt I should go about it. But I know that even all that hard work and talent amounts for a very small part. I would say maximum 20 to 30% of being 20% of making it in this industry. Wow. It's so much about timing, luck, the subjectivity of, you might be great, but does that director think you're right for this role?
Wow.
Right.
It's the only profession in the world. I feel where, for instance, if you're in line to become the Attorney General of the United States of America and you're one of the people being interviewed for it, you might not get it, but the chances are that you will go on to a massive other job because you were in the running for Attorney General of the United States of America, right? Acting is the chances are you already have a really cushy 7-figure job to go back to. Acting is the only thing where you could be meeting with a James Gunn or Steven Spielberg and your life could change. But if it doesn't, if you don't get the gig, you're back to waiting tables.
Wow.
It's the only thing that there's such a discrepancy between that changing thing and going back to.
Yeah, there's no safe middle ground.
There's no safe middle ground. There is that, and I feel like I was very lucky that before this new phase, I considered myself very much one of the lucky ones, working with great directors on great projects. Like I said, even on TV, I'd just worked with Barry Jenkins and Ava DuVernay. I was lucky, but this is another sort of leap forward that gone my career never having. I could have gone my career never getting. Every job you get is a race won, and that's why my favorite part of getting any job is the moment I get the call saying you got it. Because I know the imposter syndrome equates to that knowing how close you were always to not getting it. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, that's why. Go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead. Like to your point, like it's I was watching a Donald Glover actually doing stand up, where he was saying how like acting is like the only job that you have to keep proving that you can do it. You have to keep proving that you're like you're saying, like you're worthy of this role, or you can do a great job with this role and stuff. Like, so it's very interesting. It's like when you and you kind of have shared a similar sentiment where it's like, you can go back to another job if you're going to an attorney general or something. You can go back, you're making so much money, all this stuff, but it's like all you need is like one role and it can just catapult you. But like even then, you still have to audition for roles. You still have to, they don't just call you.
And there's this weird sort of thing of, you're right, you're constantly having to in a weird way prove yourself, even if you're the the hot thing, you're still, you get one or two movies or TV shows that don't work, and suddenly people are questioning you again. There is no home. You don't go home in the industry, which is why it's very important to me that I can go home in my real life, if that makes sense, because the industry doesn't let you go home.
Wow, that's deep.
Wow,
got real deep.
Well, that is unfortunately one of the sad truths of working in the industry like that I, from what I've outside looking in, like you get to work with these incredible people, but coming home is something that I'm assuming not
underappreciated,
super underappreciated, and also a luxury at some points, right? I'm sure, like being able to
to just shut it up. And I think one of obviously I would have loved to have, quote unquote, my big break, if you're calling this that, at 25. Of course it'd have been great, but I'm deeply grateful that I'm not, because I know for a fact that extra 20 years it's taken. And it's weird, my agent to this, my agents in London, Teresa Hickey, who's been my agent from the start. I remember the first time I met with her, just as she was about to take me on, she said to me, it's going to take 20 years. Literally, she said it in the meeting. 20 years. And this was January of 2001.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. But I remember, I'm so glad that I've had 20 years, because it's allowed me to recognize what, if fame ever happened, where it actually sits. And someone requoted to me recently something I said in an interview. It's so funny when people read back to you what you said in an interview, and I go, wow, did I say that? Wow, okay. But
really?
I
sure?
said...
You're like, of course I said that.
Yeah, you're like, really, really? Oh, wow. So, no, he said to me that I had quoted as saying, just because, I'm paraphrasing my own quote now, but just because we have the good fortune to do what we love as a living doesn't make it all that we are, And I feel the 20 years that I've had of life, death, losing people, things you want, watching other people do it, and where they go right or where they go wrong, your dreams, that's actually 20 years of your dreams reshaping what your dreams are. My dreams 20 years ago are very different from what my dreams are. Those extra 20 years makes me realize that when this stuff happens, more than ever, that quote means everything to me, that I'm so privileged that I can say I go to work loving it, but understand completely that who I am is so much more than what that is. So I think it's very important that ability to go home. This means to me that, yes, I am very lucky to be doing what I'm doing, but it only, in many ways, in the grand scheme of things, means it facilitates me to live the life I want to live, i.e. with my family at home, and to enjoy that to the full with less stress and worry, with a sense of accomplishment. It's not in itself what matters. It's thank God, thank goodness, thank the universe, whatever you believe in, that it's able to facilitate me going home.
Right.
If anything, this is a huge W, because you kind of get to have it both ways in a sense. At least,
exactly.
Yeah, because at least for me, you don't seem stressed. You feel like you're very comfortable in the situation that you're in right now. Like you can actually breathe and enjoy your time as an actor and as a human.
I really am enjoying myself, but I think it's because I got married 2 years ago. It's like I know what's gone into it. and we're defined a lot by the people we know, both the family we're born into and the family we inherit. We inherit our friends and our colleagues, the people we choose to be around, or who choose to be around us. We're defined by them. So for me, when I get comments from whether it's my family or my friends who are my extended family, the nature of their comments isn't just excitement or whatever. It's acknowledgement of that journey you've been on. Does that make sense? That we've witnessed together. So there's something about someone you've known for 20 years or more saying proud of you that means a lot different from fans going crazy about something. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean about coming home. So when you put it in that context, of course I'm not 25. I know what that all means, and I know what matters, and I'm aware of what time is,
That's an incredible thing to be conscious about.
And I know we've only known each other for an hour, but we're proud of you. We're all really proud of you.
We are.
So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
But I love what you just said, because it's like Chukwudi the person, Chukwudi the actor, right? Like that's how it is. And I think I've sort of, in my experiences as well, kind of have realized that too. I enjoy just coming back home and just being surrounded by people that I love, and I think that beats out anything, regardless, right? We love to do this, right? We love podcasting. We love connecting with people like yourself, and it's the greatest thing in the world. But let's say we had this, but we didn't really have anyone to go back home to. It still leaves an empty gap, So
it's funny, the people that I it's crazy when I think of the people I can call colleagues and friends, that I've worked with. But I remember once, because I did a layer with Annette Bening, I remember seeing her a couple of years later, and we were chatting. And this is Annette Bening I grew up with. That's, amazing, But the first thing Annette was talking about wasn't why she was in New York, what she might be filming. First thing she was talking was about, starting to look at schools for her daughter for college. That's what she wanted to talk about. I remember meeting, funny, they were in the same play, but meeting John Lithgow years before we worked together at the RSC. We were in the same restaurant, and I was doing a season there, and he was doing a season there. And we sat and we chatted for an hour, and he was talking about, him and his wife looking for an apartment in New York. It was about fact. It was about life.
Yeah. It wasn't about work. It was about life.
Yeah, you've got to find that beautiful balance. And I think I was lucky enough to grow up with my role models in my family, my mom and my dad.
Mm-hmm.
If I tell you that my dad, who became a senior diplomat with the United Nations, didn't buy his first pair of shoes till he was 16. Right. If I tell you my mom, who also became a diplomat with the United Nations and a philanthropist and brought all these women off the streets and helped them start their businesses from Ethiopia to Lesotho. If I tell you that my mom had to leave school at 11 or 12 because she had to help raise her younger siblings, but then went back to school and and then to rise to where they rose to, put all of us through school, including people that weren't even their kids, they helped through school.
Right.
And to look at what they achieved, I go, who the hell am I to be impressed with myself?
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? It
it's
just
humbling.
puts perspective.
Yeah.
It's humbling, and it gives perspective. And I think that's often the problem, is that certainly in this industry where, you're showered with this sort of weird admiration, is to sometimes have a completely inflated impression of yourself. Do you know what I mean? For me, I'm surrounded by, my younger sister is oncology. She does oncology. She saves lives every day. She just moved to, back home to help back in Nigeria with stuff. My elder sister is first Black female ambassador, British ambassador to, you know what I mean?
Wow.
My brother owns his own C21, his own in this television industry, magazine, and is also producer. I look at those, not to mention my friends who blow me away every day with what they do. I go, who am I to be impressed with myself just because the nature of my job means that every day after a day's work, I get applause.
Right.
That's the only difference.
Yeah.
that after a day's work on stage, I get applauded for it, but it's still my job. Who am I to see myself as more important? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
or take myself overly seriously.
Yeah.
You know,
it's almost like these people live like two lives, right? Like they're
actor,
able to do all this, and then on top of that, do even more.
Yeah.
Like, you know, people, I admire people that go back to school. Like, oh yeah, like I've worked for like 20 years. I went back to school, got my degree in this, and that, and I'm gonna work again.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, like, it's
Yeah.
fucking impressive.
Some people are
Like,
driven by different things, but you know,
That-
I'm glad you find your way to stay grounded in all this, because this is a very
so
tough
important.
industry to, you know, to stay grounded in.
And you know what? You know, as night, you know, the one thing that's going to happen, you know, death and taxes, and you have death, you have taxes, and if you're an actor, you're just not going to be relevant at some point. Do you know what I mean? That's the trajectory at some point.
I guess.
So what you have to do is like make hay, enjoy it, leave your mark that you can go back and maybe watch later on. Because I never watch my stuff back really, and I don't read reviews. There'll be time for that, but you know, leave your mark, because it's not forever. So for me, if I put all my energy into being relevant, as opposed to enjoying life while it's happening, at some point when that goes, you go, I missed out on all that, you know. And I just don't want that to happen. I've already got plans for about 20 years going, you know, auditing a class back at my, you know, at Yale or something, where, because I love history and English. I'd love to go back into a lecture room and do that for most of the year. You know, that'd be great. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, hope in 20 years you hit us up on Instagram and you're like, hey, I'm in Connecticut here at Yale.
I just aced my final, guys. I just aced my final.
It's like, dude, what do you mean? You aced your finals? Like,
aren't you on a porch?
Right. So yeah, would you you could get the best of both worlds. I think Connecticut had some good porches, like around their
porches. Yeah. No, tell me. And their taxes, they charge you less tax than New York State. So hey.
Wow.
You know?
There you go. And it's not that far from New York. So yeah,
wow,
it is a win-win.
Are we like, we're all moving to Connecticut?
We're all moving to Connecticut. Actually, yeah, I want to be a real estate agent. Let's do it.
Sorry, James. We're moving to Connecticut.
No, but that's great. How much time do you know how much time we still have left with you? Are you still chilling? Or
I'm still chilling. We can chill for a bit more.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll
I'm sure Ramona will hop on.
If I wasn't enjoying you guys, I'd be texting Ramona right now. Get
me out of here.
I know. I was. Go ahead, Mark.
Like, to go back to that conversation, though, it's like it kind of reminded me of when we had Javan on, and it was like about, you know, we want to have. I don't know if you know him, Javan Wade, but he's
No, I know.
He was saying that, like, you know, with interviews and stuff, like, it becomes so monotonous because you're kind of repeating the same thing over and over because you get asked the same questions over and over and over again. So like, I think something that we want to always pride ourselves with is that, you know, we want to treat you guys like people, because you're people, you know, like not like, oh my God, like we're like, you know, we appreciate your work, obviously, like you're doing great, but like, it's not like we're going to like going crazy and freak out and everything else. Like, we try to just kind of keep it ground level, or, you know, and try to make you feel relaxed and not like, oh my God, I have to say the same thing again and again.
It's a conversation. It's a real conversation.
It's a conversation.
I like that. Yeah.
It's literally
right, because at the end of the day, it's right, like Mark just mentioned, it's literally what we were just talking about. We were just talking about life. And I think that's something incredible. And like you just said, it's we take it for granted sometimes, like these little moments. So that's why when we do have guests on, and I kept telling Ramona this, right? Because she was like, oh, like what's the breakdown going to be? And I'm like, And like I gave a breakdown, right? Yeah, right. Imagine I just wrote that. We're just chilling, Ramona.
I told them, just right. We're just gonna talk.
We're gonna be on the porch, bro. That's it.
No, like we do obviously love to have like a structure and kind of little things, especially because when we started all this, it's mainly to discuss superhero content, comic book content, pop culture content. But we've sort of realized, like, in doing that, we have evolved as well into just, hey, let's just have conversations with people. Like, we just want to get to know you as a human being, as a person, because we know what you do. Like, and again, you're chilling right now on your couch. I highly doubt the one thing you want to be talking about for an hour is your work. It's like, why don't we talk about other shit, right? Like,
exactly.
So we do kind of, like Mark said, we do kind of take pride in that because, we just love having interactions with people like yourself who just love to interact with others and get to meet new people and just have these great conversations.
No, I mean, exactly what you described is what this feels like. It's a great conversation, and also it's a chance to sometimes talking about stuff allows you to sort of analyze what you think about stuff. Sometimes voicing something, you're going, is that what that's sort of where I am right now. So this is great. Yeah.
And
it helps you flesh out those thoughts.
Exactly,
sure.
Because I always tell them, I said, I really appreciate the convos we have, even when we're not recording. Because I say sometimes the best conversations we have with our friends, at least with what we do, sometimes I'm like, damn, like if only a camera was around. But it doesn't matter because I appreciate it because sometimes these guys, like these dudes, they have changed my mind on certain things. And I'm like, man, like I really appreciate this now. Just based off a conversation we have or just like a little moment of like, damn. Oh, okay. And that's something that people take for granted as well. Like how much you learn off each other, or how much that should be promoted. Like, hey, like your friends can learn from you too. Like you don't have to keep everything to yourself.
Yeah, and it goes to his point of saying, like, oh, when I have my family members doing this and my friends doing that, I have to remind myself, like, hey, just because I'm getting applause from people, like, And I don't I feel like regardless, you should still appreciate that because like, hey, like acting is not easy whatsoever.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is still a skill, it's still a talent, and you're still working hard to get at it, right? And of course, like the things you said, needs a little bit of luck, needs a little bit of timing, not a little bit, a lot of it, right? But regardless, you take pride in that, but then you also remember, hey, my friends, family, they're doing all these different things that are just as worthy as what I'm doing, if not even more. So that's something you open my mind up to.
Absolutely, there's a lot of incredible stuff. It's just the X Factors were in the public eye, and the general. But don't forget, there was a period, in 2020 where, thank God, caregivers were being given that applause across the world at a certain time every day, and that is actually it's what we did then because we realized they are deserving of that applause, constantly. So I just think in life in general to be able to understand that, not to take yourself too seriously is an important part of it, but to take some of that energy into practicing gratitude, and gratitude doesn't mean to be overly humble. Gratitude is just being able to point of fact, acknowledge what you have. And why that's so hard in this industry is that it's an industry of rejection on every level. It's an industry of rejection, and your first thought with rejection is someone took something away from me. And when that is something you're dealing with constantly, it's very hard to say, put a break on that. I'm going to focus on what I actually do have, which is often a lot more than you actually think, at the time.
Wow. See, this is what I love about having, like, when we have guests over and it's like, it's just a personal conversation, is that every guest that we have, at least for me, you can always take something away from it. And it's like, it's like a lesson that you learn. Not really a lesson. It's just like, it affected you. And it's like, you're not just talking about their career. It's like just a conversation. And I love that part.
This
Mine is blown.
Yeah, even though we're super grounded right now, it still feels very surreal because I watch you act, man. Like,
we're watching you on Wednesday.
About that. It's
on Wednesday you'll be on my screen. I'm just gonna be like, hey.
It's kind of it's kind of left my mind.
Oh, Thursday. Well, Wednesday night. Technically Wednesday night.
It's kind of like left my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, we're just hanging out with Chukwudi.
with Clemson Mern.
Oh shit!
With Clemson Mern and the butterfly. But to sort of wrap things up, right? Besides life, besides work, what are some other things that some people may not know about you that you really, really enjoy doing?
I love reading. I just love literally, guy, a perfect afternoon for me is when I know that I have nothing on. I have a book I'm really into, and I can just have some coffee and read. I just love reading. I love coffee shops. I love finding a cool coffee shop. I do all my, if I can, if not for COVID, I do all my work in the coffee shop because there's so much
ambience,
positive reinforcement for your work. It's like you do a bit of work, you learn some lines, you look up and watch someone really interesting. You know, you do your work, whatever, and you taste some really cool
Observing.
There's always something, there's some kind of reinforcement to being in a coffee shop. I love traveling. I think because as a kid, we lived in so many different places. So I love traveling. I'm a big foodie. I just love good food. I mean, I like to cook. I just love all kinds of food. I love watching old interviews of people. I go on YouTube and watch talking pictures. I just love, because often, especially in this, we're so caught up of, give me acting advice. But often you learn so much by seeing someone having conversation like this in an interview. And you just go, if nothing else, you understand, this person you only knew when fame arrived for them. Actually, when they tell you that story of being a bellboy or bellhop or the restaurants before, or the things they missed out on, or getting married, and then you realize, oh God, they're doing what you have been through. That sometimes is a bigger acting lesson than where to put your eye on in a close-up. Do you know what I mean? Because you're watching these people you admire, real people, and understand they went through the same disappointments you've been through, times 10 sometimes, the same insecurities, you know? So I love watching those things. I love watching movies in general. I love watching movies, so yeah, those are some things I love. But I would say like a perfect afternoon is a good book and a cup of coffee. And now you can add sitting on
not in a subway though.
On a
Not
Don't sit in a subway. There's kids here.
On a porch,
There's kids here.
On a porch swing, yeah.
I can't believe
that guy said
there's
that, bro.
Here,
there's kids here.
There's kids here.
It's like, what? You've been swearing, effing, and whatever for the last whatever, and now someone's ready to say, "Bring it on." You're worried about the kids.
and now that we know how much you love reading, you were probably like, "Oh my God, like this dude just like completely took me out of my zone."
Yeah, that's a
like I'm gonna have to.
I was loving that. That's what got me mad. I was in such a good place in the book.
He probably had to throw the book away.
Like, hold on, let me put the bookmark in.
Let me put the right before he got up. He's like, hold on.
But I was like, God damn it! It's like, damn it! And I didn't have a bookmark, so it was a big book, so I had to flip. So I was mad.
You had to put your finger like
so
this.
Now we get it. Now we know the full context of what really, really got you upset. It wasn't even the guy bothering him. It was like, wow, like I have no bookmark.
I have no bookmark. The one time I leave the house without a bookmark, and this idiot, you know.
Wow, shout out to that idiot. But also want to shout out Tuin. Without her, this wouldn't be possible.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Super excited
Tuin,
that she geeked out and was like, and you know, if it wasn't for your love and admiration of coffee shops, this wouldn't have happened.
Man,
exactly. I'd never been to a coffee shop before. I was like, I'm gonna try this place out. And there she was.
The butterfly effect.
So,
wait, is that it?
What?
The butterfly effect?
The butterfly effect?
Yeah.
Nice pun.
Wait, holy shit.
Nice pull.
Hey,
nice
on brand.
I like that.
And it's on brand.
Wow, I didn't even realize I was making that kind of pun.
That might be the title of the episode.
Yo, the butterfly effect.
That might be the title.
Butterfly effect. Yeah.
So we would love to just, close out. Would you love to leave a message for our listeners? Just anything you would love to leave them off with.
Currently in a show that's making people laugh a lot, my favorite sound in the world is laughter. And given what we've been through over the last couple of years, please find a way to have laughter in your life every day if you can. That's my message.
Amen.
Yeah.
Wow.
What I'm talking about, man.
I love that. But Chukwudi, thank you so much for stopping by. You are a friend of the podcast forever.
Yes, you are a friend of the show.
Wonderful.
Whenever,
and I'll see you guys around in New York. Maybe in Twins coffee shop or something.
Yeah,
let's all grab a coffee together.
I'll read a book.
That'd be great.
Let's start a book club.
Do a book club.
Just sit in the corner, all without books, just like quietly drinking coffee.
Observing people, be like, this guy got 3 espresso shots.
Look at this guy, he's interesting.
3 espresso shots.
That's his third croissant.
This early in the morning.
And we'll protect you on the subway. Make
yeah.
Sure,
yeah.
Sure nobody
I need some
gets in your way.
backing, yeah.
Exactly. We'll just like stand there,
great.
just like back up.
Absolutely.
So definitely, whenever you're in the mood to come back on, just maybe before Guardians comes out, we'll get you back on.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Love
Definitely.
To,
yeah.
So, 100%.
Right,
it's set up. Don't know the release date, but it's set up. So
I think they've announced the release date, isn't it? May 23rd or something like that.
As of right now, May 5th, 2023.
Ooh.
May 5th, 2023. There you go, May 5th. That's the date.
Nice.
So we'll do something. We'll do something.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll connect with Ramona. Shout out to Ramona.
Yes.
And we'll link up back then. But again, thank you so much.
You.
And make sure to come through and chill.